Welcome back. Today, South Africa marks National Women's Day, a day to commemorate the 9th of August, 1956, when South African women in all their diversity marched to the union buildings against apartheid pass laws. This particular year, the emphasis is on 30 years of democracy. And for more on this, we're now joined by a woman who grew up in a family with struggle heroes, who has created a name for herself in the tourism industry, and just yesterday launched her maiden book, the Syndicate of 22 Natives. Lindiwe Sangweni-Siddo now joins us in studio. Lindiwe, thank you so much for your time and happy Women's Day to you. Thank you for coming to share your story with us here on SABC News.
Thank you, Mbali, and happy Women's Day to you too.
All right. And yesterday, we understand that you launched this book that is also a tribute to your father. Tell us more about this book. Why did you decide to pen down the history of your family and put it in a book format?
Well, you know, the history of my family in this particular book, dates back a good century and a half. And it's along the storyline of my father, Stan Sangweni. He was born in KwaZulu-Natal. He was born in 1933. But I start the book with the story of his grandfather, my great-grandfather, from his maternal side. And I do that because the title of the book, the Syndicate of 22 Natives, is based on a land acquisition of my great-grandfather and 22 natives. He was part of a group called 22 Natives. If you look at the title deed, where this deal of acquiring land, which was not usual because the native law that had been implemented by the British colonizers had already been implemented. It wasn't that easy if you were black to get land. The word native, therefore, had a derogatory connotation, meaning that certain exemptions had to be in place. My great-grandfather was a traditionalist. He was a Zulu man. He had 7 wives. He was a very proper Zulu man, as in there was protocol and decorum in terms of how things were done. But he was invited by what was called in those days, amazemtiti, an exempted black fellow Zulu man called Kumalo. So my grandfather was Mgodeni Kumalo. Okay. And another gentleman called Kumalo, who had now been, missionarized and was with the church, 1 wife, didn't believe in the traditions of, the past of the Zulu. So it was so-called paganism meeting Christianity. So there's a lot of that's in the beginning. But more importantly, it's showing my father's life and how he was able to benefit from the vision of this grandfather of his in terms of land acquisition, and to be able to be educated off that land, the money that was made there, not a lot, it was an impoverished life, but the focus on education, how it propelled my father, Stan Sangweni, into becoming an unknown qualification called a rural sociologist, because somehow in his mind he knew when he came back after schooling in Canada and in the US, that he would come back to South Africa to impart knowledge on assisting agricultural projects amongst the rural communities that he had come from. So yeah, so in summary, it's about land, it's about education, it's about family, and it's about liberation.
Very interesting. And of course, you have another capacity. We now know that you're an author, but you're also well known for the role that you play as COO of City Lodge hotels in South Africa. When we celebrate Women's Day and we characterize your role in this sector, how would you say, your role is characterized, especially now, playing your role as a woman in the tourism sector?
That's a good question, because I've been in the industry for over 30 years, nearly 35 years, counting also the time that I studied. I started in 1986. In my working experience in South Africa since 1995, I've played a role mainly in senior management positions, and currently in the post or role that I play as Chief Operating Officer for the City Lodge Hotels. Operationally, my role is to make sure that our 59 hotels are functioning, the staff are happy. We have 1,300 and some staff. I have to make sure that our guests are happy. All of this being done, obviously, through colleagues who look after the different hotels. We look at the different processes that run our hotels. So on the one side, my role is very operational. on the other side, being a board member of City Lodge Hotels means that I sit on the board and I play a management executive role, obviously, alongside the chief executive officer and the chief financial officer. So our role is very much understanding and being part of the strategy formulation, and we look at what the KPIs of our company all are. But on the broader side, I also play a role within the ecosystem of tourism, meaning that it's so important for us to keep our finger on the pulse in terms of what's happening globally. We're always interested in what's happening in terms of movement of tourists, especially tourists coming into South Africa, because that's our mainstay as the tourism industry. We're also very keen to make sure that the domestic market, the leisure market, is always vibrant. So we play, we connect a lot. I play a role of being in touch with the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, which is our sort of association. There's South African Tourism, there's the National Department of Tourism. We always have to keep our finger plugged onto the things that are going to keep our industry working. So in our current situation, especially now that we can say we've recovered from COVID, our focus really is to make South Africa attractive as a tourism industry. So if our hotels are ready and if our country is ready, airlift is working, there are enough flights coming in, it's the voice of the industry that we, give back to the Minister of Tourism in terms of feedback for the things that will make our industry tick in the right direction.
Let's go back to, because we are celebrating National Women's Day in South Africa, and touch on some of the aspects that you included in your book.
Yes.
And in your book, you also speak about your mother.
Yes.
Maybe just tell us about the contributions, that she has made, especially giving back to women, of course, as we celebrate Women's Day.
Yes, my mother is Angela Sangweni. She's 88, proudly so this year, and she's a strong woman. She played, first of all, a very big role, and I detail it in the book, The Syndicate of 22 Natives, as really being, first of all, she was a teacher. She was a very good teacher, coming out of the Catholic stead of St. Francis, and so for a good 8 years, maybe 10, she taught Zulu, isiZulu, and English and other topics like that. But she then progressed, moving with my father in all different countries. We lived in exile. So we lived in Eswatini, we lived in Zambia, Kenya, and a few other countries. Her role was that to be a mother to my brother and I, Dumsani. But she also was a constant and consistent partner to my father. And when they became very involved in the political landscape and in the liberation struggle, particularly because of our life in Zambia from 1974, and with the influx of the youth leaving South Africa, they became very involved in politics. My mother's role was really that of providing a home that was a safe home. We would have youth leaving South Africa during 1976, and our home became a home where students would stay while they were in transition, waiting for the next steps of where they would be going. In the latter part, post-democracy, she was actually very active as the woman behind the creation of the Beasnode branch, ANC branch in Pretoria. A quiet woman, a very quiet, not wanting a lot of attention on herself, but a worker. And she would literally walk door to door, mobilizing membership between 1994 until really when they retired with my father. But mobilizing the membership for the African National Congress, for which my parents were both members of.
And let's not give away too much from the book.
Yes.
And of course, if people want to hear more about the story, they can definitely get a hold of the book that has been launched yesterday. The book is titled The Syndicate of 22 Natives. Of course, that is Lindiwe Sangweni-Siddo, and she is the COO of City Lodge Hotels, and also author of this book that we're talking about, of course, commemorating as well at the same time a Women's Day.